DDG episode 96. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going, Dave? We're just talking about how, you start coughing right before the show starts to go on air, man. We're going to have to get you out of the basement. You're going to have to, take over, one of the kids' bedrooms. Two of them moved out, right? You can just take over, turn them into an office.
Unfortunately, I thought that they'd be gone by now, but they're like these boomerangs, man. They just keep coming back, pandemics.
Eventually,
stuff,
you're gonna have
Christmas,
to change the locks. That's what you're gonna have to do. You just change the locks, cut them off, and just be like, "I need to record my gaming podcast in your bedroom now."
Yeah, I don't know. I usually haven't had this much problem in my basement, so I don't know if it's just been the weather or just the whatever bronchitis that I had in end of June, early July.
Yeah.
Not COVID. Been tested for it. All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that uploads every Thursday on podcast services around the world. If we're not on one of those services that you use, let us know. We can look into it. If we are on the service that you regularly use, and that service allows you to leave a review, that would be super helpful. Stars and something written helps us move up the algorithms, and more people can discover the show. And as always, just sharing the show helps a lot. Hitting the share button on Facebook, retweets, or even quote tweeting on Twitter helps that tell anybody that that maybe you're hanging out with that's playing a game. There's a bunch of cool stuff coming up as we're getting into the nitty gritty of the holiday season, and our coverage might be have some stuff that people might be interested in, or talking about games that people tend to pay attention to more or buy more during the holidays. I feel like stuff doesn't get as much publicity in May, June, July, and August as it does in October and November from a gaming standpoint, of where people are, when it gets cold, they'll go back in their houses.
Yeah. Right now it's that weird quiet time, though. Stuff's starting to release. Madden released, right? Is that out? That's usually
it's
the sign
out.
that games are coming out.
Yeah. Labor Day's coming up, and football's soon too, so everybody's going to kind of start getting back in. So
if John Madden doesn't see his shadow, then video games release. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, something like that. So in the show notes, there's a bunch of links to the website, to any of our social stuff, Facebook groups, Discord, Twitters, all that stuff is in the show notes, so check it out. And we're going to jump right into the news, which is pretty much post Gamescom, I'd say, right?
Yeah, this is this all was announced during Gamescom for the most part, and
right, we're post Gamescom.
Yeah, Gamescom.
Now.
Gamescom is over. Now we're just getting little trickle stuff that we might talk a little bit about after we're done with the main stories from Gamescom. The first one being the Saints Row reboot is real, and it is a reboot. We were kind of theorizing what form this was gonna take, and where
a remaster. Or a continuation, but it looks to be completely new.
Yeah, it's completely new. So this is an actual legitimate reboot. We even were theorizing that it might be one of those reboots where the Saints, because of time travel, we're gonna go back, because I think they unlocked time travel or some other weird shit in the fourth one. But no, this is a new crew that are calling themselves the Saints. It takes place in a desert city, so we're moving away from the traditional metropolis city that we've had before. And all new cast of characters, and it looks like the art style is a little bit more realistic, but it's retaining that cartoonish look that we got used to with the last two. I put a weird thing in the notes that the first two games are pretty straightforward GTA clones, and then the last two were just I think the quote I put was silly dick, but I don't know if people use that term. But they were really out there and wild, and this looks closer to how those first two games were. And there's a little bit of color and a little bit of that neon splash that we saw with a little bit. So it looks like they might have found a good middle ground to bring people in. Yeah,
there was some pretty heavy backlash on Twitter about this trailer. People weren't happy with kind of I guess a little bit of the art style and the character development from what they could see. And the Saints Row Twitter account was actually actively firing back, defending their choices. And some of the stuff that was in there was it appears, and I could be wrong, but it appears that this might be a prologue to the Saints forming, or that they're not Saints yet, is kind of what the Twitter account was insinuating.
Yeah, like this sounds like this is the formation of a Saints game. Whether it's going to turn into the Saints game we know, or if this is just a complete like refresh, new Saints in town sort of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, the trailer obviously was a CG trailer. I watched it. I haven't really delved too much into the Saints Row stuff. Although, like on the Epic Store this week, it's like Saints Row something was free. Yeah, it was free. So it might be something that I'll mess with a little bit. Although I can probably just go to a store and buy it for like $10 at this point in time. But I don't have a drive that takes a disc.
Yeah, it's usually on sale on the Xbox. Like
I know, yeah.
week,
It's just
so
I haven't. Like I said, I just haven't looked, and the Epic Store pops up on my computer every time I sit down. It's like, oh, this is free. I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But it's like that open world GTA style stuff never really intrigued me, and then it didn't help that I didn't enjoy Agents of Mayhem. So not that should turn me off from Saints at all, but this looks interesting just to see the chase scene that they were showing in the trailer, and some of the crazy weapons, and just some of the stuff that I always wonder, like the stuff they were doing with the car. Like, am I going to be able to control that? Is that going to be a quick time event? Where he essentially like launched the car, like one of the characters, I don't even know, like used it as a pivot point, like used one of his weapons at a pivot point and flipped the car. So it'll be cool to see what. I guess maybe what Volition can do when they're a little less handcuffed. Like they can, like if this is a reboot, they can kind of say like, well, we're just gonna not worry about it being Saints Row-ish right now. We're gonna make our new Saints Row. So
yeah, they definitely had like kind of worked themselves into a corner with 3, and you definitely saw that in 4 of just like, well, we got to keep topping ourselves, and that's why they have to reboot, is because they now can do what they want and pull some things back, especially Volition. I believe they're in Champaign, and how Volition had worked forever is they would just pull people from the Illinois University, the University of Illinois, and that's where they were pull like most of their workers from. So they were constantly getting fresh people in there, and a lot of the main people from like Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4, they're gone. So the new group at Volition either had to continue the tradition of Saints Row 3 and 4 without having most of the major people behind that game available, or just do their own thing. And it looks like they're going to do their own thing. And I think that's what this definitely needs. And then, I guess we're just going to have to watch Twitter account. Twitter account was like updating everything. The thing that I pulled from their Twitter account is you'll be able to customize the main character. And that's been a tradition in all the Saints Row games. So we'll get more. They showed just a little bit of gameplay, but it was so insignificant. It's like, what's the big deal? I think they also did like a little bit more gameplay the day after for their own event.
Coming like February, right?
February 25th. February is ridiculous next year.
It's gotten packed. Like, just off the top of my head right now, the 3 that I know for sure: Horizon, for me, Destiny, and now this.
And then another game we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. Or the next game we're going to talk about is also a February game. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff hitting.
October of this, like right now, October looks jam-packed of this year, 2021. And February 2022 is looking kind of scary. It's already scary because it's a 28-day month. And
now you're just packing everything in there. But we see this more and more because, they have to get stuff out before March 31st for the financial years, so February is like the perfect time. But
I also, if and I hate to say this because you know me, I hate being this guy, but like, do you think Saints is going to hit this date?
I feel like it's been in development a long enough time. I don't think the next game we're going to talk about is going to hit its date.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Go into it. I'm actually curious about this. I saw this. I have a friend that's working public relations for this game, so I'm super, super interested in this. I don't know anything about it.
I know a little bit about it just because of how... Yeah. Comic book nerd. Though I wasn't super familiar with what this is based on, but what we're talking about is... Firaxis Games is working on a Marvel game, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. But it has been confirmed, and it is called Midnight Suns. So this is a tactical RPG like Firaxis does. The XCOM games are all tactical RPGs. So I can imagine we're going to get like a top-down sort of experience with this, which is fine. Marvel games have done really well in like dungeon crawling space, but this will be more tactile. This is based on the Midnight Suns comics from, I believe, the late 80s, early 90s. And it's just basically supernatural Marvel characters trying to fight the mother of all demons, Lilith. The twist with this game is the character you play is a customizable character that you control. And that happens to be the son or daughter of this demon you're trying to stop. The current roster as it stands is Doctor Strange, Wolverine, Captain America, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Blade, Ghost Rider, the Robert Reyes Ghost Rider, Nico from the Runaways, and Magic. And I believe they said there's 4 more characters they have to announce. So this will be coming I believe it was February. I gotta look again.
Looks like we get gameplay this week.
Yeah,
like after the show's posted. So
yeah, and I believe this is also a February game. Oh no, March 2022.
Okay.
So not quite February, but I don't feel like this is going to hit that date.
This is coming from 2K is publishing this, right?
Yeah, 2K is the owner of Firaxis. So yeah.
Okay.
This is one of the games that they mentioned in their financial call a couple weeks ago that they haven't announced, and now it's been announced. Early thoughts on this?
Go ahead. Yeah, go.
No. I was asking you. Since
I guess like the first thought I have just reading through and listening to what you just said is that, okay, so we play as a new customizable character.
Yes.
So why is there a roster?
So the way the XCOM games always worked is you always build a team that you take out on missions. So the roster...
But you control those players.
You control them, yeah, but like I guess they need someone to be like the vocal point, the character you move around. They talked about how you'll be in the field with the team and you'll be interacting with the characters individually when you're at your home base. So I guess they just needed a vehicle for that, so they can have you actually talk to all the superheroes as opposed to you being like, I'm just playing as Wolverine and ignoring everything else. I'm guessing because of the roster that they have, everyone has pretty unique abilities, so there'll be reasons to take out different heroes on different cases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I can see, uses like Doctor Strange would be a range character. Wolverine would be like a melee-based. Captain America could be a mix of both. Iron Man is range. Captain Marvel, I would say, is range. But, I mean, there's definitely, off the top, there's things in them. And just to upgrade them or to see, I could see some type of thing where like stuff is damaged and you're fixing, like you mentioned, you're fixing your home base, and as you fix your home base, your roster of characters gets stronger and like more characters. I do like this. I feel like this is pretty close in a time frame of where this X-Men Marvel mergers kind of happened. For them to actually have, when's the last time Wolverine and Captain America were in a comic book together, let alone a game or a movie,
Well, the comics, they've definitely been interacting a lot because that was never split up. But like game wise, yeah, it's been a little bit. I think the Switch had the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, and I think like.
Yeah, I never really counted fighting games like that though, because that's just adding characters.
No. Ultimate Alliance is their dungeon crawler.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
And that was, I think Wolverine was the only X-Men at first, and then they added DLC with other X-Men. But yeah, it's rare that, or like we're getting into the point where I don't think anyone's going to, like, at least Marvel's not going to care about promoting other characters. Yeah. Because that was definitely an issue with, like, other Marvel games, is just like, they canceled the Fantastic Four comic books because Disney didn't own the Fantastic Four at the time. And then lo and behold, they get control of Fantastic Four again, and they're like, hey, we're going to start making Fantastic Four comic books again. So, yeah, no, it's good that we're getting to that point where it's just like, yeah, Marvel has pretty much access to all of their characters again, so we're going to see interesting teams come through this.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, in terms of, like, I guess, for you and I, like a 90s supernatural storyline is like right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm super excited just from like, the roster I'm excited about because of Nico's inclusion. Nico is a Runaway. Runaways is one of my favorite comic book series of the Marvel's ever done, and just to see like Nico, who in the Runaways, they're all kids. So we get like adult Nico on the same team with like Blade, Wolverine, Doctor Strange. Is like really cool to see. Like I like that they pulled like Nico and Magic and the newer Ghost Rider as opposed to Johnny Blaze is the original Ghost Rider.
It makes you wonder who else they're gonna pull for the roster for more. Like potentially this could be some far-reaching stuff that could give some spotlight to underdeveloped characters.
Yeah, it's funny though. You mentioned like it's cool to see Wolverine, like in the series, and this made me realize. So in the original Midnight Suns, Morbius is one of the leaders of the team, and he's not included. He could be one of the 4 characters they're announcing yet, but Morbius is owned by Sony. So it's one of those ones that like, is Morbius not going to be in this game because Sony still owns Morbius because he's a Spider-Man character?
No, he'll be exclusive content that doesn't come for like 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. When they buy the Spider-Man rights back from Sony, they'll be like, hey, we're going to add Morbius to Midnight Suns.
And a hero to be added later.
Yeah. The only thing that kind of annoyed me with this is like, I wonder how weird Firaxis wanted to get with this, but then Take-Two was just like, no, you need Captain America, you need Captain Marvel, you need Wolverine, you need Iron Man. Because I feel like if they're going full supernatural, like those 4 characters don't fit it at all. Though I can
or how dark they wanted to go, and Disney's like, no, you can't go that dark.
Yeah. Like, I'm okay with Iron Man being in it because I imagine that's a cool... Like, it seems like this would be a Doctor Strange-heavy game, and then you include Iron Man in it to, like, do the supernatural versus tech sort of storyline. But, like, when I see, like, Wolverine and Captain America, I'm like, why the fuck are they there? Like, I don't understand why they would be there.
I didn't... Hold up. I didn't know this guy knew how to operate Twitch. Do you see who just posted in chat?
Yeah, I saw PGF Josh.
Yeah, I didn't know he knew how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I think I wonder if Take-Two is like, no, Marvel's letting us use a lot of their characters. We're using the most popular ones to throw on some box art and have them just pop up. And Firaxis just kind of had to go with it because I guess it makes the box art look better if you have those characters on it. But to see like Wolverine in this scenario, I'm just like, what is he gonna do in a supernatural fight? But I'm excited for it, and I guess we'll see some gameplay tomorrow. So a day before this episode releases, we'll have some gameplay.
Yeah, it's cool. Definitely, this was. I mean, I guess we, with hearing about earnings calls and stuff like that, we were always speculating about what this could be, but I didn't expect this.
No, I didn't expect this at all, or at least I didn't expect it to be like, hey, we're going to do something supernatural with it. I thought we were just going to get like an Ultimate Alliance scenario where it's just like, yeah, here's this like pick a hero and go through this. But it looks like they're kind of diving deep into some stories that haven't really had a spotlight for a while. And it gives me hope that maybe, we'll see some storylines like this bleed into like the current it's Disney universe.
Yeah. It's awesome to see not a third person or first person style game, or what we think won't be a third person or first person style game. So
yeah, like I was really worried this was going to be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like it was just like, hey, here's this like, here's the army people, or here's the spy people from the MCU, and it's like, no, we're going to do something supernatural, which I think is like really cool. All right, let's talk about Halo Infinite. There's a lot of good, and then there's some. Actually, I think there's more bad than good from all this. Halo Infinite finally has a release date, and that release date is December 8th. So Halo Infinite is finally coming out after, like 2 delays? Has it been? Like this was going to be a launch game, and then they said it's going to be delayed, and then I think it was supposed to come out earlier this year.
I think they just said it's going to be delayed, and then they just said it's delayed. They never said that. A lot of times when companies will say, "Oh, it's delayed till like early next year," or it's delayed till summer. They just said it's delayed. I think they actually indefinitely delayed it. So
yeah, well, we get the game coming out December 8th, PC and on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, all that stuff, Game Pass Day 1. And the thing that bummed me out is at Gamescom, they only showed multiplayer. We find out that the head of 343 said they're in a critical phase of development, so they couldn't prepare any sort of campaign footage for an event. And then they hit like the biggest news, which I believe came out the day before, which is the game isn't going to launch with campaign co-op or Forge mode, which is... Forge mode I kind of get. They're doing new things with the multiplayer. They need to figure out Forge mode, need new time. But campaign co-op is very important to a lot of Halo players. It's a thing they've been doing forever. So the fact that it's not launching with campaign co-op doesn't give me much optimism for this game. When you're losing two big modes, and this game was supposed to come out last year. Any thoughts on that aspect of it?
It's obvious when they brought I might get his name wrong, but Joseph Selden. When they brought him back, there was obviously there was a reason that they brought him back, or that he wanted to come back. I think that was a mutual conversation, and there was definitely was some issues with the game. Excuse me. Based on what we saw from the gameplay reveal, that didn't look good. But I also feel like this is like kind of circling back to the Saints Row conversation that we were having. Like, this is why a lot of companies want to reboot, because they when they reboot, they can sit there and say like, hey, we need to adjust or change some things. Like, you're not wrong in saying that Forge and campaign co-op is intuitive and important to the Halo franchise, but maybe it wasn't intuitive and important to the current development team. So it's hard. Like this, if you really ask me, like, they care about the multiplayer. That's their priority right now, is the multiplayer, the free to play aspect of it, the seasonal aspect of it. And then I hate to say it, like, I hate to say it this way, but I feel like they're going to try to drip feed the Halo content to us, to keep your Game Pass subscription.
I can see that being like the covert op reason for like holding back modes. But the thing that worries me is, again, they were totally planning to launch this game last year.
Yeah, 100%.
Which means there must have been some level of confidence of just like, well, if we just work a little harder and then pandemic hits and wipes that away, work harder as in like most likely crunch in order to get this game out last holiday. Pandemic hits kind of either was a blessing in disguise because they weren't ready at all to ship last holiday, or it completely disrupted their workflow, which it's probably a little bit of both, that they couldn't launch it. But I really think the campaign co-op stuff is kind of a huge thing, at least for diehard Halo fans that I've spoken to.
Absolutely. But from a standpoint of, so the multiplayer is free to play, regardless if you have Game Pass or don't. There's going to be seasons, so that's really all they care about, is the $10 season pass from the start. And then this franchise carries enough weight to increase Game Pass subscriptions, which is, which as we can tell is what they're worried about. They don't care how many copies of the game they sell. That's just icing on the cake. But there would be no reason, like a single player Halo fan that would get Game Pass in the month of December or whatever in January and play the game and beat it, and that's really all they cared about, and then they would go back to playing their other games. There's no reason for them to keep the Game Pass subscription other than the extensive library that's there of other things that are potentially coming, versus hey, I could see this totally. Next season in Halo, you get to play campaign co-op, and in season 3, you can start the Forge customization, which will then tie into something within the season pass that they're doing to keep you engaged in the multiplayer.
Yeah, I think that strategy only works is if they're confident enough that Halo's Infinite is going to be a stellar product. And I don't know if they've given anything to the audience, to the fans, that gives them confidence that even Microsoft is confident in the product. Instead, we're getting like mixed messaging, we're getting delays, we're getting like bad presentation, early on, bad presentations.
Yeah.
And
but this is what sucks about doing your 5th and 6th version of a game, is that there are expectations that come with with an Uncharted game and a God of War game and a Halo game, and even to this point, like a Horizon game already, of where like as a broad example, let's say for some reason that Aloy couldn't ride machines in Horizon 2. Like, people would be like upset because they could do it in the first game, but maybe it's not an integral part of what they wanted to focus on in the second game. And, you know, maybe the campaign co-op is harder to do because they're focusing on a more linear single player mode that they want you to experience solo.
But that would be, in that scenario, I feel like they would have had to come out in front and tell people, as opposed to, hey, the game comes out in 2 months. Also, you're not getting Forge, you're not getting co-op. Sorry, guys. Like, they needed to get out in front with a roadmap.
I guess, like, and I agree with what you're saying, and I'm kind of just playing a little bit of the other side. Is like, did they ever say that Forge was going to be in this?
They never said it wasn't, and it's been in, like, you know, every multiplayer.
I know, like, I
Halo.
get it, like I get it, like, and I'm not disputing that or anything like that, but it's just one of those things where this is the expectation that comes with, you know, of having a Halo game, similar to, you know, the, like, even when things change in Madden or things change in NBA or in MLB The Show, people are very upset because the precedent has been set, but it doesn't mean that it has to stay that way.
Yeah, but I it's one of those things where, like, I get what you're coming from, but it's, you have to get out in front of being like, hey, we didn't do Forge mode.
But why would, if I'm Halo developer, why would I come out and talk about what we're not putting in the game? I want to talk about what I'm putting in the game.
Anytime, no, but exactly. That's when you're like, hey, we're not doing Forge mode, but here's our substitution for it, or here's why, because we wanted to focus our efforts on something else, as opposed to the messaging of like, oh, it's just not ready yet. You know, like, they could have been like, hey, this is the biggest Halo campaign we've ever done because it's openish world, and we just couldn't do co-op for it, or you know, we'll figure out co-op later. Instead, it was just like,
it's. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. Like, it's bad messaging. But at the same time, it's like, this. If it didn't fit their game plan, right? This game has been obviously in development hell. It needs to come out. I don't feel like the campaign is a focus for them at this point in time. I feel like, if you look at the at 343 Studio, I would feel like 85% of the people are working on the multiplayer aspect of it, and 15% of them are working on whatever else.
Yeah, it's just, this is one of those things. It probably doesn't help that they named it Halo Infinite. Right. Like, that is a very, like, big name to throw on this. So they didn't do themselves any favors by doing that name. And because it's like, the development cycle has been infinite, it seems, and it's, this could be the last Halo game if this doesn't work. They need everything to hit.
But you and I both know this game could have an amazing campaign with co-op in it that's awesome and amazing, and within 2 months of launch, if the multiplayer is shit, then people are just going to destroy the game. But if the multiplayer is engaging and good and a competitive scene, and, you know, like, from a streaming standpoint and in a season pass, you know, grind standpoint, it doesn't matter what the campaign is. But for Halo, like, it does, though. I understand, but in 2021, it doesn't matter. If their multiplayer is trash, the game is dead in 2 months. But with that same, like, logic, the right move would have been being like, we're not doing campaign, you know, like, it's like, we're just not going to do it. But they wanted both ways. They wanted to set up their free to play multiplayer, but then they're just like, well, shit, we need to do a campaign. And remember all the people that were so mad about Black Ops not having a campaign? They got really quiet when their multiplayer was really solid. Yeah, and no one really complained after that. But the Call of Duty campaigns have always not been an important part. I know. So Microsoft kind of just worked themselves into a corner, and they're at the point where it's just like, they can't afford to delay the game again, but at the same time, it's just like, if you just delay the game again, just fucking do it. Just, you know, like, if or just release the multiplayer and say the campaign's coming later. Yeah, just do something, you know. Instead, we're gonna get the product, bro. Like, why would anyone buy this game day one? I know they don't care. You don't have to. Yeah, I know they don't care because they have Game Pass, but it's just such a weird spot they put themselves in. This is what happens when there's gonna be an Xbox console bundle that comes like Black Friday, Xbox One bundle, that it'll be my Series S that I have, and it'll have a year Game Pass in
and
it.
then it'll just have pictures of all the Microsoft
Halo art
exclusives.
all over it. That thing will release on November 15th, and it'll have Halo art all over it. And it'll be Game Pass. You will never see a Microsoft. I'll tell this right now. You will never see a Microsoft bundled game. You'll never see an Xbox and Halo. No, because they'll just give you Game Pass.
Well, I mean, there is a Halo edition.
No, but it doesn't come. I bet you it comes with Game Pass. I bet you it doesn't come with Halo.
I think it comes with Halo. Oh, no. Actually, they're just releasing it by itself, so it probably does just come with Game Pass.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is that you're not going to see, like, as an example, Fallout 5, 6, whatever the next one is. It's like you're not going to. You'll see a Fallout Edition Xbox, or you'll see a Starfield Edition Xbox, but you're not going to see Xbox plus Starfield. It's going to be Xbox plus Game Pass, 6 months of Game Pass, a year of Game Pass, 3 months of Game Pass, or whatever it is. Because there's no point.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no point in them putting one of their exclusive games in the box when they can get you to dabble into their Game Pass subscription service and hopefully keep you in there indefinitely.
Halo Infinite definitely feels like a game that started development and then the corporation changed their positioning on how they want to deliver games. You know, like Halo started like, hey, we're gonna make a traditional Halo game, and then they're like, well, free to play games are really popping off. Let's have free to play, and then they're like, actually, we're doing this Game Pass thing, so work around that. It's the same way like when people want Sony to do like a Game Pass equivalent, and Jim Ryan is like, that doesn't make financial sense for us, and it's because all of the games that are in development for Sony have in mind of selling a $70 box.
Yeah.
And Halo just their dev cycle was just so long that Microsoft has pivoted their financials to where like Halo's finally coming out, and it's like, yeah, we were going to release when we just sold $60 boxes.
At this point in time, 343 and Xbox need to just stop talking about Halo, and you release one trailer over the next 3 months and then release the game. Like, stop talking about it.
Yeah, it's kind of how we felt with like Deathloop, which comes out in like 2 weeks, of just like, stop showing the game, just have the game come out, because they showed. And they kind of did that. Yeah, and they have
since that last state of play. It's been a little trailer here, a little trailer there, but in the end, like December 8th, I'm going to open up social media, and there's going to be friends on my Facebook page that are talking about Halo that I've never seen talk about a video game in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
like it's inevitable.
People out. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like when
like GTA and just like Red Dead Redemption 2 has, like those. There's like this Mount Rushmore of franchises, and it's there, whether you're an Xbot or not, it's there.
Yep. That's it for like the big news. There are a couple small stories that I could just throw in there. We debated on talking about the quote unquote controversial PlayStation heat changes, but that's
people are getting a better console than I am. This is crap.
No, it's the opposite. It's people thinking.
I didn't know which angry side I needed to be on. Sorry.
No, it's the opposite of if you have a launch console, apparently you got better. And the only thing I have to say about this, I think I put it on Twitter, is this like, it's a lot of people jumping to conclusions like Sony doesn't test their shit before they sell it. You know, like it's people being like, oh, they cut down on some of the heat sink stuff, you know, and they went with some cheaper parts, but it's just like, no, like, yes, they did, but I'm sure they're not giving you guys defective consoles that are going to burn out.
I think I read initial impressions are that this will result in a 3-degree temperature difference.
Yeah, and the people that made the video, they only heat tested the vents. And it's just like, no, you need to heat test the actual chips on the board, the RAM. You need to actually heat check that. You can't just check the exhaust and be like, it's hotter. Like, that's not how this works. So it's a lot of people.
Like, this is not an unexpected. Like, there is a shortage essentially of everything.
Yeah.
So for them to adjust is not crazy.
Yeah. So that's all we'll say about that. I'm waiting. I loved every comment that I saw. It was just basically people being like, we'll just wait for Digital Foundry to do their testing. And Digital Foundry did like an initial test, and they're like, it's not that big a deal, but they'll do the more exhaustive testing, and then we'll find out that like, yeah, it's like 3 degrees hotter, but it's still like 20 degrees cooler than the Series X, which is the current thing, is like the Series X runs super hot compared to the PS5. And that doesn't really seem to affect performance much at all. Other news, Naughty Dog put out a post for hiring for their first standalone multiplayer game, which they put a picture of Ellie looking over the city. So this most likely is the factions multiplayer, I would imagine. But because they're looking to hire, I think it was like...
This terrifies me.
Yeah, they're looking to hire 12 people, which could mean two things. It could mean, hey, they're getting in a crunch time, and when you get in a crunch time, you staff up when you get close to the finish line so you can get it past the finish line. Or this game is way further out than we expected because they're hiring all these people.
Or there's something wrong, and these 12 people they're hiring are are being hired to fix a specific thing.
Which at that point, you just headhunt like people have done in the past,
Yeah,
where you just
true.
pull specific names, which we've seen before.
I've said it before, like I'm very... Like I love the fact that, you know, Sony might be taking a risk with Naughty Dog to do this. The faction multiplayer in Last of Us 1 was solid. It didn't have any staying power, but it was solid. It had staying power amongst a very niche group of people. But I don't know if, again, in 2021, if a slow and methodical multiplayer style game fits the core audience that you're truly going after. Whether you're not going after your hardcore Last of Us crowd to do this, like you're going after the multiplayer competitive crowd, even if it's not competitive, you're going after that group. And I don't. This will be a bold statement for me, but I don't feel like Naughty Dog has the talent to have an engaging multiplayer game currently.
We'll see how that goes. Like the multiplayer, they proved at least with factions they have interesting concepts. And they proved just a little bit with like Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3. Uncharted 4's multiplayer just didn't really... Uncharted 4's multiplayer they just did Uncharted 3 multiplayer, and that just didn't
Get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with their multiplayers. Their multiplayer served the purpose until their next game came out. I just don't know if that's something that... Like, could you see a faction style game that says, hey, here's a summer event, an Overwatch style event, a Destiny style event going on in your game to bring players back on even a monthly basis? And I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's just a matter of just like what type of multiplayer game are they going for?
Right. Yep.
If they're trying to go for the mass audiences, I don't know if factions really lends itself to that. But if they also want to just get themselves into like the weird Twitch phenomenon, they can probably get into like a nice groove with like making a game that streams really well and can be very watchable for other people. They could definitely maybe tackle that as opposed to trying to be the next Fortnite, which I don't think they have any sort of like notion to do that.
Even a Tarkov or even to have an 18-month run like the Division had, the Division 1, or any of these games to even have even a flash in the pan of 6 months. Sony has never shown that in the last 15 years that they can do that.
Yeah, they've had like modest successes in multiplayer, never anything huge. But they're staffing up. And again, like
as an example, like, do you know that Ghost of Tsushima has a multiplayer mode that's people have told me is very Destiny light?
Yeah, no, it like all my friends that play it really liked it. I just didn't care about Ghost enough to join them.
And played it and liked it, but aren't still playing it.
Yeah, well, that was like the friends I talked to, they were just like, I ran out of content for the most part.
And see, that's the concern I have, though, is like, the same thing could be possibly said about whatever this Last of Us game is. It might be great for like 90 days, but then what does the next 180 days look like? Yeah. That's where, like, that's the perspective I'm trying to make sure that people understand. Sony has, top to bottom in their studios, obviously has tremendous talent to write great single-player, narrative, story-driven games. Their multiplayer games through the entire PS4 generation have fallen flat.
Yeah.
What is it? What's the one called? The car game.
Destruction. All-Stars?
Destruction All-Stars. Like, just dud.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's not Sony direct, but they obviously put their, like, somebody came to the table at Sony and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they're like, all right, we're cool. We're backing you. Like,
yeah.
Where's that backing now? 4 months later, 6 months later.
Yeah. I am a little more trusting of like Naughty Dog giving it a shot that like, and just the fact that I think Sony is more comfortable being like, yeah, we had a good run, like, I don't think Sony's building anything off like, yeah, let have this thing run for years. I think Sony would probably be happy if it's like, hey, we got 6 months out of this multiplayer experience.
No, I think if you could release a multiplayer game that's even in the realm of conversation of a Game of the Year contender.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like in the realm of where, like, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed Faction 2, you know, in 2024. Like, and that game took a significant amount of my time. Like, and I'm giving you the perspective from a Destiny player, a Division player, you know, like Destiny struggles to keep that engagement going sometimes, and like this is their wheelhouse. This is what they've been doing for 7 years, and you're going to tell me that Sony's going to do it for the first time in 15? My confidence is low. Sorry.
Yeah, it hasn't been since like SOCOM days that they've had like a huge. So
since the PSN outage.
No. Before that, PS2.
No, I'm saying like the last decent multiplayer functional game like was
Killzone.
Pre PSN outage, right?
When was Killzone? Killzone 2 was probably more successful than Killzone 3, so probably right around that time, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like since the network crashed because that essentially buried an entire SOCOM game. That crashed network.
Yeah, but the SOCOM game wasn't actually that. They had like two SOCOM duds. The SOCOM PS2 games were the ones that actually had surprisingly, good multiplayer despite the time period.
Stop saying that word, because then we're gonna get some people like.
Oh, I tweeted about SOCOM. That's how I got my like Bluetooth headset. They're fine.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. As long as you're nice about like the good SOCOM games, I think everyone will agree. SOCOM Confrontation and SOCOM after that were great. That's pretty much it for the news. Just pretty light stuff. There's some stuff that I will probably talk about next week as stuff develops related to like the Yakuza franchise. Apparently losing their creative director. But hoping more information comes out of that before I jump to the conclusions and panic that Yakuza might be going away.
All right, so just briefly in our What's Delayed segment, Horizon Forbidden West is going to come out in February of 2022. So as Michael writes, it's kind of delayed because they did say that to try and to do a holiday release. But at least we have a date. So that's somewhat of a positive, but similar to what we were talking about earlier, this is just kind of jam-packing the month of February. But they're also trying to get it out before the end of the fiscal year, like you said. Yeah,
they must be really confident in Deathloop and Kena Bridge of Spirits that are both coming out in September, because they don't have anything else.
But to be fair, they never, like people have been telling me, they never really bring any big juggernauts out during the holiday season.
Yeah, they like the first half of the year more than they like the second half of the year. But they still usually have something. And this year they just won't have anything. But hey, they'll probably sell a lot of Ratchet and Clanks that will probably go down to half price. And other games, like I expect some good Returnal Ratchet and Clank prices for the PS5 around the holidays.
Yep. All right, so what we're playing and watching. I had a pretty rough week overall with some overnights and some corporate visitors. So I was still messing with Skyward Sword, and not as much actually as I wanted to, because we drove up north. I had a family member pass away last week also, so that took a little bit of my time. But I did a new season of Destiny started, so I was messing around with that. And they're doing a really good job with the narrative story-based stuff, trying to tie seasons together really well, connect them together, and build a bunch of hype for The Witch Queen, which is coming in February as well. So like that's Destiny's expansions started in September, and then they got delayed to like October, and then later in October, and then now they're like all the way to February. So we'll see how this season goes, because this is going to be like a 6-month season. And they did announce a bunch of it's Bungie's 30th anniversary, so there's a bunch of stuff coming in December. Like they're bringing like Gjallarhorn back to the game, which is just ridiculous. But that's a marketing holiday ploy. That gun's not going to be good in this game. It'll just be like every other rocket launcher in the game. And then they're doing a bunch of interesting themed stuff, themed armor. There's always been rumors of like a Halo crossover in Destiny. There's been a lot of conversation around that, and with the 30th anniversary, I think you might see some Halo themed armor, Halo themed weapons. They're even and I've always heard this game's name before, but I've never played it or seen it. Bungie made Marathon, back before they even made Halo. and they're starting to put some of that stuff into the game with this 30th anniversary bundle pack thing or whatever they're doing. It's like $25 that's coming in December. So in order for you to, you can kind of tie it with your Witch Queen stuff, but it's an interesting pricing equation. I'll have to see what kind of other content is in this 30th anniversary pack that I haven't really had a chance to dig into very, very far. So, yeah, that's been it for the most part. Still watching like Ted Lasso.
I started
didn't watch
that.
any. Oh, really?
Yeah, I started Ted Lasso. Watched 4 episodes.
Okay, what'd you think?
I like the writing. I still don't like Jason Sudeikis. Like, his character isn't bad, like Ted Lasso. I'm actually more intrigued with all these side characters, more than I'm intrigued with Ted Lasso. Like, I like the idea that instead of doing the usual, like, asshole American goes overseas, they did, like, hey, what if we just get, like a really nice guy? Like, I like that, but I find his, like, Ned Flanders ass just a little, like, annoying, or a little too over the top for my liking.
Yeah.
But I do like his interactions with the other characters. I'm still hoping, like, 4 episodes in, we get just a little bit about, like, maybe some of the sadness and darkness about him. But even when they finally, like, reveal, I think I might have watched the 5th episode, like, what that might be, I feel like they didn't go hard enough. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched it, to where I'm still waiting for them to add depth to his character that I don't feel like they've established, especially in comparison of all the other side characters that have a shit ton of depth that they've been able to establish within 4 episodes. But I'm enjoying it. I'll probably casually watch it. I know what episode are they on in season 2 right now?
4, I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, so it might be a slower watch for me just so I can binge season 2 when that finally wraps up. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Just after like 1 or 2 episodes, I'm like, I need to take a break just because like sometimes he's just a little too much. Because he basically is just real life Ned Flanders, for the most part.
Yeah.
Which I definitely is hilarious to watch him interact with people. But I at least like the...
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of like it fits the niche where like even the players are like, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's funny, though. Maybe I watch too much of The Crown and other British shows, but I've been like laughing at the very specific like British humor stuff that are in that show.
I think there's certain things that they try to go for.
Yeah.
It gets better, like his owner. Like there's just little things like when they're... It's not a spoiler, but when they're walking somewhere, somebody walks up to him and goes, "Hey, wanker," and she goes, "Did he just call you a wanker?" And he goes, "It's an inside joke."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's just like...
Well, there's like little things, like when he did his first press conference, and then like all the media people would answer they say their question, they say where they're from, and then when the reporter from The Sun says he writes for The Sun, and all the other reporters just start booing him, was like a nice little touch. I'm just like, oh shit, okay, the other reporters don't like The Sun either. It's not just everyone else. I like little jokes like that. And then Giles from Buffy was in an episode, which was nice. I was just like, he plays the ex-husband, so I was like, oh shit, there's Giles. So I always laugh because British shows tend to do that, even though this is definitely an American ass show. But they're at least pulling all British actors who are usually just popped up in any British show you watch.
Like I said, it's got a solid foundation for the show.
Yeah.
You can see this.
I just need a little bit more depth from Ted Lasso, which I think they're slowly like giving that to him. But I really hope it isn't what they've at least alluded to in like the 4th or 5th episode, where it's just like, well, his problem is he's just a really nice guy, and it's just like, man, there better be more to that, or I might just bounce out.
But yeah, so. Not a lot of watching for me this week. A lot of sleeping, and then just in my back and kind of in my Destiny routine. Whether it is what it is, I'm grinding power level again just to be able to do some other content, and hopefully that they bring some other interesting stuff. Like I said, I am concerned about a 6-month season and what will or won't be in there in October. So yeah, no movies, nothing like that crazy right now. So what you got?
Yeah, okay, so I started... I'm continuing with Final Fantasy XIV. I'm up to level 32. I think I unlocked my 3rd or 4th dungeon which I guess after I do that one, I will unlock one almost immediately from what my friends are telling me. So still doing that, though I traditionally had set, or I had made it to where like I will play on Sundays because that's a day I'm off and I can just play a bunch of it, but my schedule just hasn't been able to work out that way. Like I actually went out with friends on Thursday, video game hunting. And I also then went out to Ignite, which is like a LAN center, on Friday, and then I had to go to my parents on Sunday. So like my Final Fantasy time was kind of cut this week, to where I'm just doing it at random times. Like there's, I think Saturday night I played at like midnight and then get off till 3 a.m. because that's when my friends tend to play. So I hopped on around then and just did random stuff. Still not completely engaged in like the dungeon work aspect of the game. I kind of just like doing some of the side quests, and doing the tasks that they want you to do, because there's so many things you could do side quest wise, even though I'm also just listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos while I'm doing those side quests. But it's just a good like, hey, let me do something while I watch like random videos about people video game hunting, which has been my latest stupid addiction, is just watching people look for video games and stuff, which is something I actually do with my friend last Thursday, where we went hunting to different stores because he's into collecting Digimon cards. So him and his friend go out to the like far suburbs to grab Digimon cards, and I was like, hey, let me go tag along with you and hit up a couple video game stores on the way there. So still trying to rebuild that PS3 collection through video game hunting. The two new games I could talk about. I'm playing a game that I got early access code for called Rocket Rumble. This is like a character racing game, like character hero racing game, where you basically play as like cute animals that are in like mech suits and you basically race. There's a little bit of combat in it in terms of like picking up weapons and then using it against enemies. It's in early access and it very much feels like the case with some of the level design and some of the mechanics, but it's seems like it would be a good like local co-op game to play. I have it on PC because that's where it is early access, and you can play local co-op on the early access version of the game, though because it's on PC I haven't been able to really test that out because that just doesn't sound like the best experience, like me, Sarah, and a couple friends trying to hover around my monitor. So I've just been playing the online aspect. Online works for the most part. It's early access, so I haven't really found too many complete games. But there's at least like a interesting enough foundation there that it would be one of those things where, because it's early access, I'll probably check in like once every week or 2 weeks just to see the updates that they've done and see if that brings more players in. So doing that, and then Psychonauts 2 came out last week, so even though I didn't finish Psychonauts 1, I was like, I just want to play Psychonauts 2 because I don't want to play old game. So started that, really liking it. I love that in 2021, we have 3D platformers like Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts 2 around. Psychonauts 2, it's really fun. I love all the little collectible stuff. The humor is exactly what you expect from a Psychonauts game / a Double Fine game. And I'm really enjoying it. It was on Game Pass, which is part of the reason why I was just like, let me just jump into it without finishing the first game, because it was just like there's no like actual cost to like worry me, to like stop me from picking it up. But Psychonauts 2 is really fun. I probably recommend jumping into it. It has a...
So,
go on.
I have a question for you based on that. Playing Destiny the other day with Randy, he's also in chat. He said that he tried to play Psychonauts 2, and he said it might have been a personal thing, but he felt like there was like a cutscene, and then like 30 seconds of gameplay, and then a cutscene, and then like 50 seconds of gameplay, and then a cutscene, to where he's like, I couldn't get into it. Like every time I started to do something, something else happened. I haven't played it, so I was kind of more wondering your perspective. Did you get that feeling early on?
No.
Maybe 30 seconds is an exaggeration, but he never really got into, like he said, every time he started feeling comfortable with the controls or in a groove, there'd be a cutscene.
I mean, there's a long opening cutscene that basically introduces you to the world, recaps the first game, and then recaps that PSVR game that came out last year, 2 years ago. But yeah, in the beginning, the introductory level where they're introducing mechanics, it does that a little bit, but the cutscenes don't really last too long. They're basically just transition cutscenes to like you enter a room and then a character talks to you and then you just start moving again. But it didn't bother me too much because I thought the flow of it was pretty good. It's definitely like a couple hours in, the first level definitely felt like the weakest level. Because it's just introducing you to mechanics and everything like that. But I think the humor in like the cutscenes and just like the style of the world kept me more engaged with it than it might have kept him. So I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely a game that I do plan to finish. So I greatly enjoying Psychonauts 2. I still haven't started 12 minutes. I was so excited for 12 minutes, but I fucked up because before it came out, I looked at reviews from people I trust, and enough of them were like, this game's not as great.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah,
you can't do that, man. So.
And I'm still going to play it and make my own opinion about it, but it definitely moved it from the top of my pile of games to play to like the third or fourth choice, because it's just like, okay, you know what, let me just engage with this game when I have the time as opposed to making time for it, which is definitely something that happens to me every once in a while, especially when it's like people opinion that I respect. When I get that,
100%.
It's that aspect of just like, okay, you know what, I
But you were interested in the game before that a person's opinion came out, so you should still play it, and you shouldn't have looked at that person's opinion.
Yeah,
at
for
least
sure.
until after you played it. So
yeah, and it also just kind of came out at the wrong time because it's just like, okay, Final Fantasy 14 is taking a lot of my time. Boyfriend Dungeon came out like the week prior, and then Psychonauts 2 came out, so like I have a list of all these new games to play, so it just dropped that down the list a little bit.
It's the good and bad of Game Pass. You're like, oh, it's there.
No, exactly.
It's not like you went to the store and got it, or you downloaded it and you waited for it to download and you watched the ticker go across. You're like, oh, it's on Game Pass. It's there.
Yeah.
So that's a great feeling, but it also doesn't give you the, hey, I went to the store and bought this. Now I want to play it. It doesn't give you that kind of feeling, or like, hey, a box came in the mail. I want to open it. Oh, it's my game. I want to play it. It's just there.
Yeah, and I think it's only on Xbox and PC right now. If it was on PlayStation, I would probably feel like more of a priority to let my PlayStation friends know how it is and download it right away. But because it's locked to Xbox and most of my friends are on PlayStation, I don't feel like I have to be that person that I usually am for a lot of my friends, to where I'm like, hey, I tried this game. Is it worth you guys to pay money because I didn't have to pay for it on Xbox?
Right. For sure.
Which, like, will be this case with like Back 4 Blood. When that game comes out, I'm going to download that day one because my PlayStation friends are going to be like, is it broken? Is it good? Before they drop the money down for it.
Right.
I basically turned into like a beta tester for a lot of my friends because of Game Pass.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it for playing and then watching. It was Ted Lasso. I went to Ignite and we played like, I think Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and then Rock Band for a little bit. But that's pretty much it. Did you want to talk just a little bit about Far Cry? I know there's an episode to let people know.
Briefly. So if you didn't see in the feed when you're listening to this, there is a Far Cry 6 hands-on impressions. I was able to play Far Cry 6 last week, a significant amount of time, and it's solid. Similar to what we've been talking about with Halo and expectations and Saints Row. It's Far Cry. It's more Far Cry. It's the interesting points. The two biggest, I guess, the three biggest things that I took away from it are, the character you play is male or female and fully voiced. So your character is not mute, which is the first time in a Far Cry game in a long time, if ever. The co-op progression is shared. So it's not gonna, like when you play co-op with your friends, it's not gonna be like it's not gonna feel like a waste of your time like it did in 5. And then there is a large amount of it feels like crafting weapons and gear and customization of your character. Even like some of the gear you pick up, like I guess I would armor or the stuff like gloves and boots and a hat. Some of it has like poison resistance and fire resistance, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but at its core foundation it's more Far Cry. so it's more like a super, like it's more focused on the villain. But with your character actually having voice lines, it feels early on. It feels a little bit more engaged story wise. I think that has to do with the story that you were talking about a couple months ago or a year ago now, where Ubisoft came out publicly and said, "Hey, we're trying to change our narrative," and this might be the focus of it. So it's like a 20-minute thing that you can listen to, 22-minute thing you can listen to on the podcast feed. It'll be on the YouTube as well. There'll be some gameplay there. But there's an interview with the narrative director as well. So as always, I like to do these things, but I also like to hear your guys' feedback. Is there something that you wish I would have done differently? Is there something I missed? Would you just want to see, raw gameplay footage uploaded to YouTube without any commentary? So, but that's on YouTube and it's on the podcast feed.
Cool. Since Dave's coughing right there, we'll move on to questions and comments from the community. The first question that we got is from Robert Cartwright. Do you think developers and console manufacturers do enough to stop hacking on multiplayer games? I read today that COD players are now running aimbots, etc. on PS5 and Xbox platforms, so now turning off crossplay doesn't solve this.
I think there's two scenarios in this situation. I think that there is obviously a problem with anti-cheat in a lot of these games. I constantly see the Call of Duty Twitter account like tweeting out about how many bans that they've done for their anti-cheat. They use, I would assume, they use some of the Blizzard tech that Blizzard uses, since it's Activision Blizzard, which has been said to be top notch, because you don't really hear about a crazy amount of cheating like in World of Warcraft, where definitely people would want to cheat. And then the other side of this is, I think this is like a player base just complaining because they get shot in the head, and they think that they ran into better players, or their connection maybe isn't as good. I think I know where some of the basis of this is coming from, and at least from Robert's standpoint, and that's not a reliable source.
Okay. Can developers do more? Potentially. They do have
the cheaters are always ahead.
Yeah, that's the
They're always ahead.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is it's constantly a moving target. Like, they can come up with a fix one day, and then 2 days later the hackers have another way around it. So it just turns into, how many people is this affecting? How much is it going to cost to fix it? And how much resources can we put into it? What I think usually happens, especially with Call of Duty games, is as they get closer to a new Call of Duty game, they kind of pull back their support in terms of stopping hackers from getting their new game. Which then,
they're not paying very much attention to Modern Warfare right now.
Yeah. And I think Activision will have to figure something out, because they want to keep Warzone alive forever, ideally. So they definitely need to change their stance on running into this habits where anytime a new Call of Duty game comes out, the previous one starts to get hacked up, because now they just have this games as a service one going constantly.
When you were playing Warzone, though,
yeah,
what percentage of matches did you win?
Depending on the group I was in, probably 2 out of 10, maybe, like 1 out of 5.
What percentages do you think that you ran into a group that was cheating?
So I was playing it too early on to where hacking wasn't too bad, unless you had PC turned on, because it is a definite problem on PC. I'm not too sure, since I haven't played Warzone in a while, how bad it has gotten on consoles now that the consoles have been kind of compromised. But definitely when I was playing with PC enabled, you would run into people that are just like, "Oh, I just got shot through the wall." So it is it is a problem on PC.
But in the same amount of matches that you would win, probably. So like 20%, 10%.
Yeah, probably like 10%. Like if I had PC enabled.
You win a match, you lose a match, and the other 8 are whatever. So 80% of your time is fine. 10% of your time is a win. 10% of your time is a cheater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's not terrible.
Yeah.
And how important, like, other than a little niche in a little notch on your emblem, or like you're not getting serious loot from winning.
The only thing I would say to that is if you're someone who dedicates a lot of your time to a specific game, I can see with the frustration because you're going to run into more instances of cheating just because you play the game more. So you're going to me playing like 2 hours a day and be like, I ran into one cheater, it's fine, to someone being like, that's the only game I play. Running into cheaters is going to feel more of an issue. It is definitely
the only thing that I know is, so again, Destiny related, because it's a games as a service that I play all the time. That has at least on the PC side, had a rampant cheating problem in high end competitive content where loot was on the line, where certain exclusive loot is actually on the line for you to earn, as well as a significant time commitment to get to that said loot. So then Bungie comes out and says, okay, we're going to use BattleEye, and it's in the early stages. And then the PC community is complaining, like, they're going to access my privacy settings. It's like, you want anti-cheat, but you're not willing to put the anti-cheat on your system so it can detect it. Probably because you're cheating.
Yeah, no, and that's a problem with PC often, is because, like, in order to... It's the same problem that Valorant had. Where Valorant, you could not play Valorant unless you downloaded their anti-cheat engine that got administrative activity access to your computer. And that is always going to be a problem, where you're going to just have people that are just not going to want to engage with it, and then it's up to the developer of being like, we don't need their money. And you're going to have a lot of developers.
I would hate to see you go launch Warzone tomorrow and it requires you to download something onto your PlayStation 5 that A, takes up space, and B, accesses your IP essentially, and whatever device you're plugging into your PlayStation, and people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this. And like, okay, but you want us to do something about cheating, but you're not willing to. It's like, I don't want somebody to rob my house, but I'm going to leave my house unlocked. What?
Yeah, the problem is, like, in order for them to do, like, extreme measures, they usually need the capital. They need the money to do that. You either need to throw a shit ton of people. It's why, like, Fortnite has hacking, but you don't hear too much about it because Epic is really on top of it because they have an army working on it, because they produce enough money.
And in the end, you finishing in 5th place versus finishing in 1st place isn't really the end of the world. You just load up another game. Yeah.
But again, if you're dedicating yourself to like one specific game, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to see more instances of cheating as opposed to like just casually playing it. But yeah, developers are trying, but the hackers are always going to crack whatever they do, and then they're just kind of stuck in an endless cycle of trying to fix it.
Some of the cheatings that I've seen in Destiny is absurd. Like, I'm like, how do you even figure out how to do that? Like, unlimited heavy ammo, full auto sniper rifles. Like, it's just like, how?
So some of it is really, really bad. But it's just kind of how we're gonna deal with, and especially you notice that as games go international, people have different stances on what they consider cheating, and we have instances like players. Oh God, I forgot the name of it.
PUBG.
Yeah. They had the instance where, like, as they got bigger and went more international, they had to deal with all sorts of weird cheating shit that they just eventually were just like, yeah, cheating's just, it happens.
Hey, we can solve the problem. We can go live in China and be limited 3 hours of online play a week.
Yeah, you could do that. But that's also where a lot of the cheating is rampant, because they look at it differently. They look at it, I guess, as like they're just playing the game, and it just happens to have cheat engine on. If anything, they should just do what Respawn does, where they just put the cheaters in Cheater Island, and then just let them fight against themselves.
Let the full auto sniper go against the wall hacking machine gunnist.
But even that, it probably takes significant amount of work to like make sure you're doing that to the right people.
Sort the matchmaking pools.
So there's different ways they can handle that. But yeah.
All right. So Roy Gibbs sends a question in. So are you doing a DDG group for this year's Extra Life? The way I'm going to answer that question is I would love to hear what you guys would like to see us do. Do you want us to do one? I guess if you want us to do one, Michael and I can start looking at it. I'm more leaning towards the no, just because, not because I don't think like Extra Life is an amazing cause. I just don't know if I can dedicate the time to it right now.
Yeah.
If there's enough feedback from the community, I will figure something out. Mm-hmm. But and it would, I'll tell you right off the bat, it would probably be like me playing for 12 hours and Michael playing for 12 hours. I ain't playing for 24 hours.
Yeah, our work schedules makes it like extra difficult, especially both being in like the retail line where Extra Life usually on a weekend, and those are days that are usually like not possible for us to get off.
I can totally stream a game from like 8 to 8 on a Saturday or 8 to 8 on a Sunday, like 100%. I can do that if it's planned out, and I don't want to say it this way because any amount of money helps the kids, but I don't want to take a significant amount of time off work, put some planning behind things, and ultimately only see like 3 people show up. Like that. That's a little
deflating.
Deflating to myself, to put some effort and some energy into some things, and then just to not see it pan out. And again, if I can give Children's Miracle Network or any of these hospitals $10 from you guys, like that's great. But I can definitely point you in the direction of people that do a tremendous job with Extra Life as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we did the last 2 years, is just anyone in the community that are doing Extra Life, we just let you guys use our Facebook group to advertise it or shout you out on Twitter. So definitely if anyone in our community is doing Extra Life, we'll definitely help you guys get the message out. And like I donated to several different people in a community that were doing Extra Life streams last year. So definitely we'll help you guys platform your stuff. As of right now, based on the planning, it probably wouldn't be possible this year. Me and David talked about like when we first started, like doing Extra Life in person. But obviously,
I would go to Chicago.
Yeah. But then COVID happened.
Right now, I'm not going to Chicago.
No, I don't blame you.
And I would not ask Michael to come here.
Yeah,
they're both. If you look on our map, like if you looked at a heat map, there's a red circle in northeastern Illinois, and there's a red circle in southeastern Michigan, and those are both where we live.
Yeah. So we'll definitely support anyone in the community that is doing Extra Life. Me and Dave maybe last second we'll throw together like some sort of thing. But as of right now, no concrete plans on Extra Life.
Because I'll tell you from my own perspective of streaming for years, I haven't streamed enough with me doing the overnights and just in general with things going on. And Michael's anti-streaming, but it is that's the great word. It is deflating to be online at 2:00 in the morning and playing a game of, having, people online in the party chat with you or in Discord with you helps, but it's deflating to try to play something at 2:00 in the morning when you're tired and nobody's watching. It's deflating.
Yeah. So
if we did something, like I said, it would be 12 hours of Michael on Saturday and me on Sunday for 12 hours. Like that would be kind of, somewhere like where the majority of the community could actually see and watch it, because I think it's crazy for me to expect somebody to be up at 2:00 in the morning Eastern time watching me play video games.
Yeah. And we definitely need that engagement to stay up and stay motivated while doing it. But it's definitely something we'll look at. And if you're doing Extra Life, let us know, and we'll give you guys a little bit of a platform. And then maybe we can host some streams on our Twitch channel as well if you're doing it.
Yeah. All right. So Spotlight is obviously the Far Cry bonus episode that's on the feed that I just talked about. And I think that's it. Do you got anything else?
No, next week I'll have an interview with the developer of Earth Knight, probably early on in the week. But awesome. Just look out for that. It's just going to be on the podcast feed.
Yeah. So be sure to check out the socials on Twitter at Digital Days Pod, so you can see us promote some of the Far Cry stuff, promoting this episode, promoting Michael's interview. And like I said at the beginning of the show, any retweeting and sharing of that is helpful, just to get some more eyes on it. And then you can follow Michael at the first MJC, so you can see him complain about Bluetooth headsets.
Not complaining. I was admiring the Jabra headset and the official PlayStation headset that were for the PS3.
I miss true Bluetooth settings. I spent some time trying to my Turtle Beach headphones have 2 Bluetooth channels where I can, so like with crossplay in Destiny, there's been not a huge influx, but I've got a group on Xbox and a group on PlayStation and a small group on PC, and now we can just play together. The other day I was playing a game with a guy on PC, a guy on Xbox, and myself, trying to get my headphones connected to my cell phone to use Discord and stuff. It's been a little bit of a challenge.
That Turtle Beach headset has some major issues with consistently connecting to the phone, because I have that headset as well, and like some days just like, oh, we're not going to work. You're just like, okay,
I had
cool.
to like turn it on, turn it off, click the buttons on it. But there's definitely, I can't wait for the Discord integration on consoles. Apparently there's actually a decent like workaround on Xbox to run Discord on your console. And a couple of the guys that I know,
It's probably through the power of the browser, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't remember that. I don't have it in front of me, but a couple of the Xbox guys I know, they've been using it, and it seems to be working pretty well. And then you can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. And then, like I said, in the Facebook groups or in the show notes, there's a link to the Facebook group, Discord server, Patreon, all those things. So I'm not going to delve too deep into Patreon because Michael and I need to get back on the horse with some of our bonus content. So if you can support us through there, like, you're awesome. If you're supporting us at the $7 tier, I'm sorry that we haven't done anything for July and August. And I'm saying August now because it's over. So we'll definitely have to figure that out. But we also need suggestions from the community. That helps always. If somebody gives us a suggestion, it usually gets the ball rolling for both Michael and myself.
And if you guys can like somehow talk to Dave's manager and tell him to stop doing overnights, we might be able to like have Dave awake at normal people hour time.
Or if you can just get the companies to supply the items that I need.
Yeah. If you have a line on some of the stuff that he needs, he can leave overnight and not have to. I think
it's been extended another week. It was supposed to end last week, and now it's going to end like in another week from this. Like this time next week, I'll still be on overnights.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, that's all I got. I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.